Hey there, Taurus. Welcome to your reading for the week of October 27th. This week, we're going to jump right in here. You have this card that says, Prosperity lies ahead, new moon in Taurus. You have this new moon in Cancer. It says, you and your loved ones are safe. So I feel that some of you, I was literally going to say that you have an idea that could be very prosperous, and you have the Seven of Cups there. The thing with the Seven of Cups is that it could be, it can be a lot of moving parts, or it can say that this idea that you have, it's like there are maybe still some fears or worries surrounding it. Seven of Cups is never really that big of a deal. It's not really a bad card. But I do feel that some of you, it's basically saying don't overcomplicate something that could be very good for you here. And again, I was literally going to say that you have an idea, and then you get the Seven of Cups, which is, basically a card of an idea that's in your head. And I feel it could be very prosperous for you. And, I would just really, really go for it here, Taurus. I even think with that new moon in Cancer card that, like, if you're thinking about, like, working with family or, doing something with loved ones business-wise, that's also popping into my head here. So I think that would also be very helpful or could be very good for you. And so I would go for it here, Taurus. It looks really, really good. You have the Seven of Cups, the King of Pentacles, and the Three of Swords in your first row. I don't know. I have a feeling that this week, I'm only about halfway done with these readings, and everybody has had the Three of Swords so far. So it wouldn't surprise me if it's one of those weeks where we could be going through healing. I've said it before. I'll say it again. The end of the year here kind of is a healing time. We have Neptune going back into Pisces. We have the North Node in Pisces, South Node Virgo. Just had the Pisces Virgo eclipses. I don't know. It's kind of obvious to me as far as the astrology is concerned. But, some of you could be healing. I feel like this card is very simple in your reading. I feel it's just encouraging you to not overcomplicate an idea. I have a bad habit of doing this as well here, Taurus. Like, I come up with an idea, and if I would just stick to the original idea, things would probably go well, but I just can't help myself. I overcomplicate everything. And, like a tiny little thing always turns into some big thing. And usually that's a problem. It has worked out a couple of times. And so I will say that, when you get it right, when you overcomplicate the right way, I'll tell you that you will have a big win. But, for the most part, I could probably make my life a lot easier. And I feel like the Seven of Cups is saying that. You have the King of Pentacles. Yeah, King of Pentacles is you, of course. And, I think you're just showing up in a strong position here. You also have the Empress, which is also you, Taurus, which is also amazing. This could be you standing out, getting attention, all sorts of good things happening. So I feel there could be a lot of success for you here. I do feel like the King of Pentacles is saying, like, don't get a little bit ahead of yourself. Again, I think you should be writing down your ideas. Like I tell everyone, I have my little idea notebook right here. It's full of ideas. Don't share your ideas with anyone. I never show anybody these ideas, right? But, what I would say is write down all your ideas, because if you're coming up with a plan, which it looks like you are with that Seven of Cups, I think that you should, start with the initial idea, the first thing that pops into your head. Overcomplicate it later, especially if this is like a business or something, Taurus. It's like you can hire people to help you later, right? But right now, I think it's more important that you get started. You have the Three of Swords. Like I said, we're in a healing time, so I don't know. It's just very obvious to me in the astrology that pretty much everybody is healing their heart. And, Three of Swords is a great card for practicing forgiveness and forgiving yourself or forgiving people. You don't have to do this, like, in person. You can do this just in your heart, right? You can just say, I forgive and move on, and that's it, right? So I think that would be a great thing for you. But let's see where this is going. I do like this reading, so let's keep it that way. With the Seven of Cups, you have the High Priestess. Probably downloaded this idea. Again, with Uranus retrograding back into your sign next month, you're born right next to Gemini there. So, Uranus going back into your sign, it's almost like you could be dragging some of that, or Uranus could be dragging some of that Gemini genius back into your life, right? And I think this would be a good thing for you, Taurus, especially any ideas. Again, this is your second house, so Gemini. And even if you're not a second house Gemini Taurus, it doesn't matter. I would say that, Gemini is Taurus's second house, so it's going to affect all of you, even if it's your 10th house or whatever, doesn't matter. And I would say that for all of you, it's going to be bringing in really good ideas that could be more intuitive, that are financial. So a lot of you, I think there's some, good financial things coming. With the King of Pentacles, you have the Two of Cups, you and your higher self. That's literally the message I was getting on that High Priestess. High Priestess is intuitive, but I was getting more download, That was like, you could say that's the same thing, but I think it's a little bit different. And so the Two of Cups is like you and your higher self and communication. We have the Staff of Hermes right here, which is Mercury. So a lot of you, I feel, are getting, sure, this could be love. I don't think this reading is a love reading. I think that this is talking about you downloading some genius ideas that are going to make your life a lot better and, could be getting you closer to your dream life. There's like a little bit of, there's something about destiny popping up in my head here as well with the Ace of Wands. I'm not trying to jump too far ahead here, but it is popping into my head right now in the reading. But this is like, not like destiny, like Wheel of Fortune destiny. I feel like this is like destiny as in you are breaking free or breaking out of something or exceeding some sort of expectation. The best example I can give you is it's like if no one in your family has gone to college, it's like maybe you're the first to go to college. Is that really your destiny? And maybe, but it's almost like you're doing something that is pushing you past a point, like some sort of limitation. And you could be, again, downloading ideas to do that right now. I know, pretty deep reading here, Taurus. With the Three of Swords, you have the King of Cups. You've had like a King of Cups, I'm pretty sure, all up in your business. So if you do want love, sure, could be a King of Cups type person. Again, it looks to me like there's some healing that's going on first, or, maybe the universe is asking you to heal first before you get this. I'm not sure. But, either way, I think healing would be good for you. The thing about the King of Cups is to not drown in your emotions. And I think this is very important at the end of the year here with Neptune retrograding in Pisces. I think there is a danger that people could get wrapped up in something emotionally that just doesn't matter. It's not even that it doesn't matter. It's like sometimes I think we can get wrapped up in things that we can't control. So what's the point, right? It's like, what's the point of being angry about something you can't do anything about? And, that's sometimes I think the King of Cups reminds us of that. And then we go Ten of Swords to the Sun. The Sun wants us to be optimistic. The Sun wants us to focus on the things that make us feel optimistic. And, that's what I would do if I were you. Next, in the area of what's coming in for you, you have this capybara. It says selectiveness, group bonds, and sway. You have this kiwi. It says awareness, psychic attunement, and fidelity. So definitely I feel that you're, it's almost like what's popping into my head here for you is that you are getting a color TV. It's like, imagine if your intuition has been black and white television for a very long time. It could be a very intuitive time for you, Taurus, and I think you need to realize that because, again, I would be writing down your ideas, not only this month, but also definitely next month for sure. And, I'm going to do November readings this week, so we'll see what comes up. But, I think for a lot of you, this is saying that it's like your intuition is becoming crisper or something at the end of the year here. And yeah, I know this is a weekly reading, but again, I still think this is going to be important for quite a while for you, but it's almost like it's getting crisper, clearer, and I would really listen to your intuition. You have the Queen of Swords. I'm actually going to show you on the table because she has her hand up to the Sun here. And again, the Sun is great clarity. The Sun is like a spotlight in a reading. It kind of shines a light on a certain section of the reading, but can also just be clarity. So the Queen of Swords only has clouds halfway up her body. She is clear for the first time. I feel like you're more, like a little bit more hopeful. She is kind of like cautiously optimistic. She's willing to accept something, but if it isn't right, she's willing to chop it off. And I feel for a lot of you, I would encourage you to be a little bit more optimistic and not automatically assume that something won't work, especially your ideas. If you're saying, but that probably won't work, I would at least try it. I think she is encouraging you. And, this is not what she represents, but I read intuitively. And intuitively, I'm getting that you should just be trying things, and just seeing how they go. Like, be a little slightly more optimistic about your plans. You have the Ten of Swords, and I think everybody's going to be ending something this year, so I don't know, whatever. Again, another obvious message as far as I'm concerned. Just looking at the astrology, I think it might be a little surprising for some people, like what they allow to end at this time, but not in a bad way. But again, we're going through a significant shift, especially when we get into the new year. I've been talking about 2026 since 2016 for 10 years. You can literally go to the live tab on my channel, go to the oldest lives. I used to talk about all the time how everybody's talking about 2027 or 2033, which I also think will be a big year. But really 2026 is there is a big shift happening. We have Neptune and Saturn are both going back into Aries. Neptune will never return to this part of our sky in our lifetimes. It'll never come back to Pisces. And so this is kind of like our last chance. Unless you're like 0 years old, unless you were just born, maybe some of those people will make it. But for the most part, again, a pretty significant time. And I think Neptune really dissolves a lot of illusions. And you have to think about the fact that we had so many major planets changing signs this year. And, which is a very short period of time in astrological time frames. So, I think for a lot of us, we are just releasing things and that's it. You have the Magician. The Magician is a card of manifestation, of course, card of reinvention. I definitely feel that you as a fixed sign could be reinventing yourself. He has this snake right here, which is the Ouroboros, and it can represent reinvention. So a lot of you have to change. The Empress, she has to be matching the energy of what she wants to get it, which I'm a big fan of. So I think that matching energy or thinking about how you can match the energy of what you want would be a really good idea. With the Queen of Swords, you have the Four of Cups. Yes, it's like he's afraid he's not going to get what he wants. And, that's why I was saying be a little bit more optimistic with the Queen of Swords. Because that's what I felt with the Seven of Cups and that Queen of Swords. Some of you, I think you have an idea, and then you're like, that won't work, And I think the Four of Cups is saying, no, maybe it will, maybe it won't, but you need to try. And, that's really what the Queen of Swords is saying to me, is that don't just assume that an idea won't work. Try it a little bit, and see what happens, especially if it's free. Maybe something will cost a little bit of time. And maybe that's the problem with Saturn retrograde. Saturn retrograde, I think, especially with Neptune there, can bring up illusions of time, or we can feel like we're running out of time, or we don't have time, or that we're wasting time. And I think you need to not worry about that. With the Ten of Swords, you have the Ace of Pentacles. Yeah, new opportunity. Could be, I don't feel this is like a big surprise, but, I feel this is like a little bit of a surprise, because you could be seeing that there's more of an opportunity than you think, like I said, with that Four of Cups and the Queen of Swords. And the Ace of Pentacles is something that has to be nurtured into existence. And what do you know? We have the Empress, the ultimate nurturer right here. So if you're working on any new opportunities, or if you're, kind of like starting anything new, then, this could be something that you're really going to want to nurture. It'll be worth it for you. And yeah, it looks good. With the Magician, you have the Five of Swords. Yeah, it's like at any time, especially right now, I think this is one of the biggest things that we're all dealing with collectively, is that everybody's being asked to change. But if we change, then everybody in our life is going to have something to say about it. It's like it is the astrology. I think that, especially when Neptune goes into Aries, it's a very tribal energy. So it's like if you go against the grain, or if you try to stand out, people are going to be like, who the hell are you to stand out? Who the hell do you think you are? You're going to hear a lot of that. Taurus, your job is to just turn it right off, right? I think, be weird, be eccentric. That should be your motto. I think that should be everybody's motto, but it's, showing up for you right now. And don't be afraid to go against the grain. Next, in the area of messages from your future self, you have this Climate card and this Aries card that says act on it. Definitely a time to act, especially now. If you're going to start anything, I would start it now. We literally enter into the Mercury retrograde shadow today. Today is October 21st. This video will actually be published on the 22nd. So, for you, yesterday. But, to me, are shadows really that big of a deal? Probably not. It's not the same as the retrograde. Plus, again, if we followed all the retrograde rules, all the astrology rules, we would never get anything done. So I always say, if you want to get started on something now, before the retrograde, you still have time. Mercury goes retrograde on November 9th. So I would act. You have the Sun, the Ace of Wands, and the Empress. Really bright future for you here, Taurus. So I like to see this. There could be a lot of success and growth and abundance coming in for you, a lot more happiness and optimism. I think that allowing yourself to be a little bit more optimistic about your ideas will actually lead to more optimism in the future. There's something, I almost never talk about optimism with the sun, even though the sun can represent optimism. But, there just seems to be like something very important for it. The other weird message that I'm getting here is like sometimes I think we can have ideas and the reason you think it won't work is exactly the reason it will work, right? It's like a weird paradox in life. I see this all the time at social media, right? Where it's like people will come to me and they'll be like, I want to do this thing that's like different than everybody else. I'm like, then yeah, exactly. You should do it because that's exactly why it will work, is because everybody's doing the same thing. If you're like a little bit different, then you're going to stand out. And, the sun wants us to stand out. The sun wants us to step into the limelight, And I'm not saying you're working in social media, but you definitely could be standing out in some way, or you will be. You have the Ace of Wands. Ace of Wands is out with the old, in with the new. It is a passionate new beginning, and I definitely feel there could be some sort of passionate new beginning coming in for you here, Taurus, where you're really like standing out, getting attention, all those other good things. There's a ton of growth in this reading. King of Pentacles, Empress, Ace of Pentacles, Seven of Pentacles, this card, really good cards for growing something. So anything that you're thinking about growing that's new, I would definitely go for it. You also have two aces right next to each other. Two aces is a definite yes to any question that I have not answered. You have the Empress card. The Empress, of course, is you showing up in a strong position. The Empress is also abundance. The Empress and the Ace of Wands is fertility and birth. Again, I think you're birthing a new idea or something new in your life, obviously, and it could be extremely abundant for you. Like I was saying earlier, don't get distracted. She has this waterfall here. The waterfall, the water comes from the Emperor. The water, if you look at the Emperor card, there's actually a little thin line of water flowing behind him. But the waterfall also is kind of like tied to the tower because the waterfall represents chaotic force. She understands that nothing will ever be perfect. She understands that, chaos can happen at any moment, but she's not worrying about it. She is just focused on creating abundance. I think you need to brainwash yourself into only focusing on abundance right now, Taurus. That might sound a little bit delusional, but sometimes delusional works. With the Sun, you have the Eight of Cups. Again, with the Ten of Swords, probably, like I said, I think at the end of the year here. Maybe not this week, but I do feel at the end of the year that you're going to maybe be leaving something behind or cutting something out or ending something very quickly and moving on to something new. I am not even worried about this. He has fear. He is afraid because he's walking into darkness, but he's being brave. He's, choosing not to settle. I really don't feel that fear for you, Taurus. I feel a lot of you, it's like you're just going to do it. It's just that simple. With the Ace of Wands, here you go. You cannot make that up. I literally said that earlier on the Ace of Wands about destiny. Like come on. You cannot make this shit up here, Taurus. So exactly like I said, I was getting something about destiny on that Ace of Wands, where it was like saying to me that there's like some part of your destiny, but in the sense that you're, breaking free from, something from your family or something. I don't know. That's how it popped into my head. Like I said, if your family's never been to college, it's like you could be the first. Is that really destiny? Not really, but kind of. It's kind of like you're breaking a generational pattern or something like that. So a lot of you definitely could be doing that. It could just be your destiny with the Wheel of Fortune now. It's funny that I said that earlier. So the the Wheel of Fortune is a change in your fortunes. This is probably something that you're creating, though. It's not something that's just going to happen. It's with the Magician to the Wheel of Fortune. This would be like an action that you're taking. We have this Aries card that says act on it. So you're like doing something. With the Empress, you have the Judgment card. Judgment is a wake-up call. Judgment can represent a change as well. These people are standing in these coffins. The coffin is their old life. Outside the coffin is their new life. And so they're being called to step into their new life. Again, they have to be brave. The coffin maybe was once something that brought them security or safety or, maybe there are things in their coffins that support them, but they're being called up because they are being called to like their true purpose. And a lot of you, it definitely looks like a purpose reading to me. You have, next in the area of the good stuff, you have this Virgo card. It says details, details. You need to look at something more closely. What you need to know lies in the details. You start with the Seven of Pentacles, which is analysis. And Seven of Pentacles can be analysis paralysis, but it's coming up in the good stuff. You have this fiery beginnings. Here you go. Ace of Wands, a fiery beginning. It says you're on the brink of a real breakthrough. Follow your heart and live your passion. Yes, definitely. I feel that you are. Maybe that's also the thing, is that you're living more passionate life with the Ace of Wands, and even the Eight of Cups. Again, the Eight of Cups has something in his life. He has those 8 cups, but they no longer serve him. He knows he's settling if he stays in that position, and he's not willing to do that, which is good. So I think a lot of you are you're about to live a more passionate life. You have the Seven of Pentacles, the Knight of Wands, and the Hermit. So Seven of Pentacles, again, makes sense with the details. We do have the South Node in Virgo, and I've probably said this to you before because you're an Earth sign. I would be careful of getting too caught up in the details, even though it's coming up in the good stuff. It's South Node in Virgo, everybody in the collective, we can try to be perfect when perfect doesn't exist. So, as long as you're not being too much of a perfectionist, I think you'll be fine. I also think, I'm thinking back to that original message here in the reading, which is to start with the first idea. Like, you have an idea, and then it grows, becomes much bigger. I feel like you need to start with that initial, the initial idea and go from there. You have the Knight of Wands. Knight of Wands is about being spontaneous, enjoying the adventure. He is the true builder in the tarot, and I feel like that's what you're doing. You're building something here. That is the action that you will be taking. Again, it doesn't have to be business. It could be your health. It could be a relationship, whatever it is that you want. But he's just willing to kind of embrace the mystery. He's willing to go on the adventure of the mystery as well. And so, whatever he's starting, it's like there are mysteries that exist, but he kind of figures it out as he goes. You have the Hermit, which is Virgo. So, they're working with, even though you aren't a Virgo, doesn't matter. You can work with Virgo energy and pay attention to the details, work on, kind of getting the details in order. There is a little bit, I think that new moon in Taurus, I think a new moon in Taurus, and I think, I need a plan, right? I think I kind of said that at the beginning of the reading. And so, I wouldn't get too caught up in a plan right now, but I would have some steps that you're going to take to make something a success. So if you're working on a business, career, whatever, I would make sure that you kind of follow some steps to make it happen or come up with some sort of plan. Also, with the Sun, the Hermit needs to shine his inner light. He found his inner light, and he has something that makes him special, so it might be time to put your light on display. With the Seven of Pentacles, you have the Knight of Wands. It's kind of like having a loose plan, is what I would say, because Seven of Pentacles would be an analyzed plan, I'm going to do this, this, and this. The Knight of Wands says it might be better to have a plan that's a little bit more spontaneous, where it's maybe there are you kind of create some milestones for yourself where you say, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and there's a little space in between, right? Where you can be creative, where you can, be a little bit more flexible. So it's sometimes we have to come up with a plan, but we have to be flexible in how we accomplish the plan. And, that's kind of popping into my head here. With the Knight of Wands, you have the Page of Swords. Yeah, Page of Swords is about following your curiosity. And I definitely feel you are probably, everybody, but especially you with Uranus in your second, you could be more curious as far as your finances are concerned about how to grow them. You could be having, I think that you could be being presented with a lot of ideas with the Seven of Cups. As I always say to you, Taurus, I think having Uranus in your second is really bad for anything that claims that it's going to make you rich quick, right? So no get-rich-quick schemes, of course. But I think if you're, finding plans to improve your finances, as long as it's something that would require kind of diligent effort and could be something that would support you for a long time, then that would be a good thing to explore. And that's what I would explore with that Page of Swords. With the Hermit, you have the Ten of Cups. Love it. Some of you could be attracting a Virgo for sure, if you're looking for love, or it could be a person who has Virgo in their chart. The Ten of Cups is also fortune after difficulty, so it can represent good things happening after a difficult period of time. You have this ladder, it says climbing towards success. This is one of the better readings I've done for you in a while here, Taurus, so definitely good stuff. This card says the whole reading kind of says you're clearly climbing towards something. Even the Judgment card, they are rising up, so you are heading up. You have this flute, it says disappointment in a friend or a lover. I mean, you do have the Three of Swords with the King of Cups, Ten of Swords. but it just doesn't look like a big deal to me. If you are experiencing a disappointment, I feel that you're probably moving on from it and finding someone new. So wouldn't even worry about it. You have this hills card. It says obstacles to overcome. They're hills, they're not mountains. I think the thing for Taurus is very obvious to me based off your astrology, that it's going to remind you of past things. If you start anything new right now, there could be like little bumps that make you think that something isn't going to work, because it's like the challenges you could be facing, again, they might be very similar to something that you faced in the past that maybe did prevent you from progressing. The trick for you is to realize that, number one, last time you probably learned how to deal with it. Number two, it's probably not going to be a mountain like it was last time, just a hill that you have to climb. So don't give up. You have this dark man card that says dealings with relationships, the man with dark complexion or hair, and you have this January card, so you could be meeting someone between now and January, or it could be someone who was born in January as well. You have this Axe. It says forces working against you. Like, I feel like you're working against yourself, really. I'm not calling you out or anything, Taurus, but, if you feel like something's getting in your way, it's probably just you. So I would get out of your own way with this reading. But damn, Taurus, I love this reading for you. Really good. So thank you for being here. Make sure to leave a comment. Really helps me out. And definitely enjoy your month.